Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the most expansive narratives I've ever seen. With so many permeating decisions and ripple effects caused by dialogue, it is nauseating to think about. Within that great web of choices lie some of the most disturbed and awful things you can do in a video game. So let's go over the most sickening and irredeemable things you can do in this game. And to make this more interesting, I'm excluding any Dark Urge or Servant of Baal choices, as picking those options already defines you as a monster, hence you're more likely to make those choices anyway. It's not complete and utter insanity to pick these options because your character is already mentally disturbed. Instead, these are insane choices that you would make if only you, the player, were demented in the head. And that is the best excuse I could come up with to justify not spending 40 hours on a Dark Urge playthrough for a video that will not even get 500 views. First up, you can destroy Wyll on an emotional level to the point where you're amazed he doesn't off himself right in front of you. He's already a tragic character, afflicted by a curse and having his father held hostage, but in helping him, you have the power to make the situation infinitely worse for him. The first thing you have to do is romance him, which makes any betrayals after this point irredeemable, but we haven't even gotten started. You then convince him to sell his mortal soul to save his father, which is a romantic gesture to make, where you, the most special person in the world to him, helps him make the ultimate sacrifice to save someone else he loves. It's an honest Romeo and Juliet move, and it's a narratively satisfying conclusion to his arc. Or you can make him sell his soul and just abandon the quest line after that, abandoning him to the bowels of hell for literally nothing. This is a level of betrayal that is already something you can't come back from. There's no rhyme or reason to doing this. It's purely to screw him over after tricking him into making him love you. I'll admit, I didn't like Wyll all that much as a character, but to go this far to show him how much you hate him is beyond the level of vile. But I wish it ended there, because for some unknown to God reason, he doesn't break up with you, which lets you do something even worse to him. You can cheat on him with the demon that's enslaved him, and then you can blame him for not putting out enough. That is beyond the pale of disgusting, and there is no world in which this is ever not a primal sin. Next is another betrayal of a companion, and this time it's Shadowheart, and the ways this game will let you screw her over are just unthinkable. You can reach the climax of Shadowheart's arc, helping her overcome the pain and lies foisted onto her by Shah, helping her realize how she's had her entire life stolen from her by fanatic cultists, and lost the only people who ever loved her, those being her parents. You can also romance her like Wyll, making this an all-new level of sickening by being friendly to a much more vulnerable person than Wyll, and then ripping her heart out and stamping on it. Once you arrive to face said fanatical cultists who kidnapped her parents, you are presented with an offer by them. Turn over Shadowheart and they'll help you in your quest. Now, aside from the fact that this help is just a one-time summon in the final battle, and you'll be sacrificing a much more helpful companion, this is a bad deal, yet nothing is stopping you from taking it. And there's no fanfare or any cinematic to it. You agree, Shadowheart says what, and then she's dead, just like that. You can walk out of the building with your companions thinking Jesus Christ as they follow you out the door. This is such a villainous thing to do. You're presented with the most pathetic offer to betray your lover, and you take it, completely disregarding all the time and fun you've had together and just throwing it away for a cheap reward. There's also nothing stopping you from saving her parents and then murdering them yourself when you get back to camp. Again, you gain nothing from doing this. It's just an entirely malicious and awful thing to do to this character you presumably love. Finally, we have yet another horrible thing involving a companion, and yes, I know it's uncreative, but these are the characters you care about the most, so hurting them is the most evil thing you can do in the game. However, I put this one last because it's a bit more disturbing than the others, as this is something that can happen in real life to someone, and that makes it, to me, the most depraved thing you can do in a video game. I'm honestly a little sickened that Larian thought this was even okay to put in the game. It involves Astarion, and of course romancing him just to make this betrayal all the more vile and subhuman. Astarion was physically, mentally, and sexually abused for decades by his master, and because of this, he has trouble being intimate with other people. So when he confesses his love for you, something that took an incredible amount of courage, the game will let you pressure him into having sex with you. You know, the one thing that he can't do because he was sexually tortured in a dungeon for decades, and you reply to his heartfelt confession with an immediate demand to make him relive his trauma. I don't care how good you can give it. This is just straight up disgusting, predatory, and manipulative behavior, and I am shocked that this is even a thing that a writer thought a player would want to do, because we're no longer massacring the druids or whatever fantasy thing you thought up. This is a real-world act of monstrosity that real people have had to go through. I'm not saying it's wrong to be in the game or that it should be removed or anything like that. I'm just amazed that this was even allowed to be in the game, but I do question the madman who thought it up. Thankfully, Astarion finds the strength to break up with you after you violate him like this, but with all those decisions you gain nothing from them. If there is a player who made these choices not just to see what would happen, but because they genuinely wanted them, I honestly don't understand you, and I hope I never will. If you enjoyed this video, here's one about the worst things you can say in Persona 3, and I'll see you in another 2 days.